In today's class, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful overlap cape on an off-shoulder bustier with front zipper. Okay, so I just closed my zipper allowance at the front here. You can fix a front zipper if you want. I'll be taking you through how you're going to be cutting and sewing this from beginning to the end. If this is what you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so to make this cape now, I already made my off shoulder patterns. This is the back, this is the front, and if you see the thumbnail very well, you will see that the front has a zipper. So I folded in my zipper allowance like this, a zipper allowance of 1 inch. So this is actually a requested video from a subscriber, and the picture she sent actually has a zipper. That's why I want to go with this. So this is my front pattern. I've made my darts. I've already done this severally on the channel. So if you do not know how to make this, you can check out one of the videos where I want to do this. I'm going to be linking one down in the description box below. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out my darts. Okay, I'm just going to be opening one of my darts so that I can close the bust dart. Okay, that is basically what I'm doing. I'm going to be closing this bust dart now, and then I'll hold it with a masking tape. Then you are going to be cutting out our cape. Okay, so I've cut it out completely now. So I've drafted my tiny sleeve also. This is the sleeve and this is the back bodice. So now I'm going to be joining this together like I'm sewing it. Okay, so now I'm joining so that I can cut out my cape. I'll just make it look like I'm sewing it. So I'm placing this together. If you already have your allowances, so you need to turn it in like you are sewing, but I'm still going to be adding my seam allowance when I'm cutting, so that's why I'm just placing them against each other like this. Then I'm going to take my sleeve also, and then I'm going to imitate it like I'm sewing it with 1/2 inch that I'm going to be sewing with. So I folded the 1/2 inch in like that, and then I'm going to be holding it also with a tape. Okay, then I'll bring in the back also. Just hold it in. Okay, so now this is the back. So I'm going to be sewing my sleeve also to my back. I'm just going to be imitating it just like I did. I'm going to be folding it 1/2 inch or whatever it is that you sew with. Then I'm going to place it on it. Then I'm going to hold it together with the masking tape also. So this is what my new pattern is looking like. So now to cut out the cape, I'm going to be introducing a fresh pattern. Okay, so I have my fresh paper now. So I'm going to be placing this on my new pattern. Remember, this is the center front. I've also folded in my seam allowance, my zipper allowance. That is if you want your cape to get into your zipper allowance. If you don't want it, you don't need to fold it in. So center front is here. I'm just going to put it at these end points like this, and then arrange everything very well. Okay, so you can hold this with a masking tape if it's shifting, or if it is staying for you, you can just go ahead and trace out what you have. Okay, so now I've traced out this shape that I have on my neckline, and the next thing now is for me to note the important points. Okay, so here is where my sleeve joined to my handhole for the front. Here is where it's joined to at the back. This is my center back, this is my center front. So, and any other, this is the midpoint of my sleeve, and this is where anywhere you know you need to note so that it will assist you when you want to fix your cape back to your bodice. Okay, so at this point now, remember there's going to be a zipper in front. If you wish to open your back or maybe put anything on your back, you can include your back zipper allowance, but because the zipper is already in the front, that is why I'm just folding it in like this, and then I'm going to try to cut this part on fold. so that my cape will not be open. But if you want to have a seam line at the back, just like I said, so you just need to open your zipper allowance like this, then you continue your cape, whichever it is that you want. So after having my marks now, I'm going to be removing this pattern, then I'll set it aside, then I'm going to decide how I want my cape to be. So for me, if you look at that design, that thumbnail, the cape is narrowing at the center front area. It is not so bold. So on my center front area here, I'm just going to be measuring 1.5. Then after measuring 1.5 here, I'll be increasing it a bit. So here I'm going to measure 2 inches. Here I'm going to measure 2 inches, also 3.5. I think it becomes big from the midpoint of the sleeve. So this is what I'm trying to explain. If you look at the picture, you see that the cape is a bit tiny, around 1 to 1.5 inches at the center front here. Then it becomes wide, especially on this shoulder point, which is going to be the midpoint of our sleeve on the pattern. So you're going to be replicating this on the pattern, but you don't have to go with this. I'm going with this because this is the design that was sent to me. So it depends on the shape that you actually want your cape to follow. So now on my pattern, where I have the midpoint of my shoulder, which I noted in the pattern, so I just want to show us which is here. The midpoint of the sleeve, sorry, and that's going to be our shoulder point, which is here. I've measured 1.5 inches at my center front for the starting of my cape, so it becomes wider and follows this shape that we have there. So you can follow any shape that you want. So here I'm just increasing this measurement to maybe 2 inches. Then here I increase it to 2.5 inches. Then when I get to this midpoint, I can do maybe 4 or 5 inches. So I think I'm just going to put it at maybe 4.5 inches. Then I'll maintain this 4.5 inches all the way to the back. Again, it depends on the design, the style that you want for your cape. You don't have to follow exactly what I am doing here if you have other designs in mind. So now I'm going to be connecting this together. You can use your cape, your curved ruler, sorry, or you can also use a free hand like I am doing if you know you can. But if you can't, you can use your curved ruler and then you take it in bits. Okay, so I have this now as my design, then I'm going to be closing it here. So before I cut this out now, I'm just going to be adding my seam allowances of half inch around it. Then I'm going to cut this. Okay, so I've added this round, and on this center back part, remember I said I was going to be cutting it on fold. So if you are going to be having a seam line at your center back, you may want to add ½ inch at this part also, depending on what you want. So now I'm going to be cutting this out. Okay, so I've cut this out now. Then the next thing is for me to cut it on my fabric. So you just do that by just placing it on your fabric and cut exactly what you're having. So this is what I was saying. I made sure that this part was on fold. So by the time you open it up, you will see that you've cut both sides of your bodice. Okay, we've cut the left and right side and the back and everything together in one piece. So if you want it to have like a seam line at the back, what you just do is just open up your back with your scissors like that. If you want, okay, so let's say I want this to have like a seam line at the back now. I'm just going to take my scissors and then cut through it at the back like this. But you must have added that allowance to it. So I just did that so that you can see what I'm saying. Then now we'll have it in 2 pieces. So now the next thing is for me to detach all this now, and then I'll go ahead and cut it out on my fabric, then bring it back so that we can continue. Okay, so I'm going ahead to cut this on my fabric now. I remember that I've slashed open my cape. So now I'm going to be slashing the center back open also. But like I said, I've shown us how we are going to do it if we don't want to have any seam line at our back. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to take all this to the sewing machine now and then sew them together. Okay, so this is the center front and this is the allowance. Remember that we said there's going to be a a zipper at the center front, so I folded it in so that I can get something. And you need to fold it in because of this shape here, you can see. So if you don't fold it in and you just cut it straight like this, you will be having all this shortage. That was why I folded it in like that. So now I've cut it now. I'm just going to open up my center front also. And then I'll go and sew it together. So I'm sewing it like this. Then I'm going to be turning the cape also. So let me explain how I'm going to be turning it using this. So this is the upper part of the cape. So here, the 1/2 inch allowance that I had here, I'm going to be placing the lining and the main fabric together, and then I'll use it to turn each other. And this upper part, this 1/2 inch on the upper part is what I'll use to sew it to my neckline. Okay, so I've sewn it now, and you can see this is my center front joined together, okay, like this. And this is this is my back, so this is my front and back. And then I went ahead to sew it together on the sides using my same allowance that I left. So we have two different patterns like this, because remember we later slashed the back pattern also. Okay, that's why we have it so like this. Assuming the back pattern was not slashed, it will be together. So this is the center front with the same allowance. And also I went ahead to turn my cape. Okay, I just sew it by 1/2 inch on the down part. So I used the yellow thread. I hope you can see it. Then after sewing it round, I turned it. Then I went ahead to iron it so that it can lay as flat as it is laying it for me. So the next thing now is to match my notches and sew this on my cape. So you're going to be placing it like this, and then you're sewing it round your cape like this. Okay, so you sew it like this if you want to be turning it with a lining. So let me just explain. If you're turning with a lining, you sew it like this. Okay, you sew it like, not like you're turning it. So this is the right side of the fabric and this is the wrong side of the cape. So right side of the fabric will be placed on the wrong side of the cape like this, so that you can use your lining to turn it in neatly. So your lining should be cut exactly the same way you cut your main fabric. Then you're going to be using it to turn out each other neatly. What I'm saying is, if you're placing it like this, so after placing it like this, then you take your main fabric. Sorry, I've added one of my, okay, so now in this case now, because I'm not using lining for this is a tutorial, I just placed it in a way that by the time I finish sewing it, I will turn it to the right side neatly like this. You can see that it has been turned and it is neat on the neckline area like this, because I'm not using a lining for this. And this is my zipper allowance. Okay, so I just cut it following the V shape that I have on my center front. And like I said, you need to fold this before you cut it so that you have this V shape. So by the time I cut it out like this and I fold this in, you can see that it just rhymes perfectly with my shape that I have here. So here now, I'm just going to be closing it up like this so that it will be neatly finished. So like I was saying, assuming I want to use lining to turn this, so after placing my cape like this, then my lining that I've already cut and sewn the same way, I'm just going to be placing it also on it like this. Then you sew it. So by the time you sew it, you're just going to be using it to turn it in like this so that everything will be neat. So now I'm going to be taking this to the sewing machine now, and then I'm going to sew it just the way I sewed this place. Then you will notch it here so that it will be lying flat for you. And assuming we did not open it at the back, okay, our cape would have just continued, like it would have continued all the way to the center front again. But we opened it and I explained if you don't want it to be opened, how you are going to be going about it. So now I'm going to go ahead to sew this now. Then I'll close the zip, because I'm not going to be adding the zip to this. I'm just going to sew it close. Then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we'll see what it looks like. Cape now, and this center front, you can see that I just sew it close. You are going to put a zipper there if you want a zipper. So this is my seam line in the center front, and I just sew it so that I can put it up on the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. And this is our cape. Okay, so you can see that it is tying from the center front, and then from there now it just extends to the back. So it depends on how you want it. You just need to increase it from your measurements, just the way we did, and this is it on the back. Okay, so it becomes broad from the shoulder and all the way to the back. And like I said, remember that I still slashed my back open, so I just held it with a pin. But if you don't want it opened like this, you know what to do to it. I can see how lovely this is looking. It's really beautiful and simple to make. I hope you try this. If you enjoyed this video, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.